Yeah, can you explain this to me? Because I'm not as familiar with what's going on.
You know, I got in crypto in 2016, 2017.
Okay.
That's when I bought my first one. So I was only interested in that point. I'm not interested in something if I don't own it. So Mt. Gox happened back, they launched in 2010.
Yeah, this was like the first Bitcoin exchange, right?
It was pretty much the only exchange,
Okay.
the only legitimate one that 75% of all transactions in Bitcoin went through Mt. Gox, which was started actually by an American, but it was based out of Japan. They were doing 150,000 Bitcoin trades a day. And this is just kind of a brief overview. But if we can just jump into the next slide, Ryan, this kind of gets into what actually happened here. And then we're going to explain what happened and why it happened. And it's actually quite simple, the entire hack. So launched in 2010, almost as soon as they launched, 2 Russians that we know of hacked the system. They did not know about this. And there was more than the 2. There's only 2 that we can identify today, both of whom we don't know.
So there was a security breach shortly
breach.
thereafter launch within the next or the following year.
Right. It was. It allowed them basically to view and monitor all the private keys. So instead of just taking all the Bitcoin out on day one, they were strategic. I think they waited for Mt. Gox to grow, and then as it got larger, then they started to withdraw. Because if they have say 10,000 Bitcoins, why not wait till they grow to 100,000 Bitcoins? Because you know that they have access to it. So 2010, he launches it. Jed launches it, an American by the name of Jed McCaleb, in Tokyo. And then almost maybe in that same year, I don't think they know exactly when it happened, but it was hacked. And there was a few things that happened leading up to the big hack. In 2011, there was a hack of, I think, maybe 20,000 Bitcoins or something like that. Not nearly as big as one that was going to happen in 2014. But there were perpetual problems with this exchange. It was always going down. At one point, the average wait time to withdraw funds was 3 months for 25% of the users.
Okay.
So they were having some real security problems.
But again, it was really the only place to play, right?
Yeah.
We're going all the way back to 2010. There just really wasn't, obviously there wasn't the infrastructure that we have here 14 years later.
What were you doing in 2010?
2010, I was still...
Were you in college?
I was getting a master's degree.
Oh,
yeah.
That's how long ago it was.
Yeah.
And now you have white hair.
Yeah, well, I thought it was gray, but
no, it's silver.
White. It's getting there.
Yeah, you're a silver daddy.
If I continue in the crypto space for much longer, then I mean, it might not even be white. It'll just be gone. It's falling out. But
anyway.
Yeah. Well, Mt. Gox, that stands for Magic the Gathering Exchange. Is that right? Okay. Man, it was hard to take this seriously. Yeah. I think some people still have a hard time with it.
And this what we're going to say right now is not going to help to validate the ecosystem of blockchain. What we're going to talk about in the next 5 minutes.
This is a decade ago.
Yeah.
This is the lore that we're talking about.
Yeah, and like you were saying, he bought the domain because it was supposed to be an online exchange, OX, for Magic the Gathering.
Okay.
But he just turned it into Mt. Gox. He already had the domain. Why not make it a cryptocurrency exchange?
Right. Here we are. And it's fun to tell this story because we're going to get to the point around, is this contributing to sell pressure? What's actually happening here today in 2024, 10 years later? But eventually, the exchange filed for bankruptcy. They lost 744,000 Bitcoin. Or not so much lost, but stolen. Is that probably a better way to think about it?
That's how much was funneled out. Actually, some figures have it more than that.
Okay.
So what happened, right? Here's an overview. Let's go to the next slide. I spent some time today putting together a...
Yeah, this is like a Dateline, like 2020 sort of episode from Mad Mike.
Yeah, I had to do some digging to find this. All right, so top left, top right-hand corner of the screen, we're looking at Alexei and Alexander. These are 2 Russians. Again, they're not the only ones, but they're the 2 most predominant ones and the ones that we know about.
These are the guys that initially exposed the exchange.
Right.
Breach.
So the exchange launches almost immediately. They're in the system.
Okay.
They're a little bit naive at Mt. Gox. They don't understand or have any idea what's going on behind the scenes, the access that they have. So they go in and they slowly start taking crypto out, right? Exponentially gets larger and larger until 2014, they take it all. So what do they do with that Bitcoin? That's hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, from the only exchange that exists at the time.
So what would you do?
I would sit on it. I would wait.
Where would you send it? Another wallet?
No, I mean, I guess you would have to, that's what you have to solve for. So what did they do?
Well, I would start another exchange.
You would? Okay.
Yeah, which is what basically they did.
Okay.
So we can see here, they hacked, they took the money, and they sent the crypto to an exchange called BTCE.
Okay.
And if you look at who is responsible or who's kind of like owners of this new exchange, the Alexei is an administrator, and Alexander basically built it. He's a developer. So these guys are deeply ingrained with a couple other people.
And this provides them the opportunity then to sell the stolen Bitcoin on the exchange, presumably to anybody else that's just actively using the exchange. They're not bad actors, the traders on the exchange. They're just buying Bitcoin. They're selling it. They are the offer, providing liquidity on the exchange, but it's all these stolen funds.
So I don't want you to think that all the crypto they stole went to BTCE. A lot of it stayed with their personal accounts at Mt. Gox and a couple other things. But the lion's share of it went to this BCE exchange. But they didn't have the liquidity to get it off. So they had some relationships with American companies. And if we jump to the next slide, we can see BTCE. They sent it from their exchange to BitInstant, and there's a couple names here we're familiar with, and Memory Dealers. Memory Dealers is a hardware company. BitInstant is another exchange in America, run by a popular, who you're familiar with, Charlie Shrem, who I believe, no, the other guy created Bitcoin Cash. He's the father of Bitcoin Cash. But you know Charlie Shrem, right?
I'm familiar with the name.
You know him. You had a beer with him last week.
I do not know who these people are.
So he did a couple of years for money laundering, shortly after this went down. So I'm not sure if that was in direct relationship to the money coming to his exchange. Maybe he wasn't clearing it because it was laundered. And the other company, Memory Dealers, same thing happened. The founder of that company, he was just arrested 2 months ago in Spain for a different reason, for tax fraud. Again, I'm not really an advocate for the blockchain space with this current slide we're looking at.
Well, this is going back some time. Back to a time when we had less original names for sure. There was no tastycrypto.
Yeah, definitely.
Just BitInstant and Memory Dealers.
Yeah, there was no Coinbase, there was no Binance, there was nothing.
So it's not that sophisticated in the grand scheme of things. Clearly, everybody was found out. We know kind of what happens next. But now...
Well, the two Russians were actually never discovered. Pop back a slide.
Okay.
So I only found 2 images on these. So Alexei, this was on the United States Secret Service website. I found him. They're looking for him. And Alexander Vernier is in Argentina. And they believe...
Well, you have a question mark there. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, I thought you meant in the chat.
No.
Well,
I don't think the chat's
he's believed to be imprisoned in Russia.
Okay.
But of course, somebody with his skills, I doubt that they would have him imprisoned at this moment in time. He's probably working for the government if he isn't Russia at all.
I like the speculative angle you're coming at here. Okay.
And we can see a identification card, an Argentinian one, of the other hacker, Vernier, who is believed to be in Argentina.
Okay.
And a Russian spy.
Okay. So they're still out there, outlaws.
Outlaws.
And the other guys, the U.S. citizens here, have been, I guess, apprehended.
Brought to justice. And
punished.
the main creator of BTCE Exchange did go to jail too.
Okay. So fast forward.
All right.
2024, 140,000 Bitcoin could be distributed, Bitcoin Cash as well, and is going to presumably be sold in the open market and is going to crush the price of Bitcoin. That's what happens next, right?
Yeah.
Or that's why we're falling?
Well, I don't think it's going to happen. The next few slides, we're going to focus on the impact of this new supply.
Yeah, let's break this down because I think, again, you go to any of the media outlets, like you mentioned, trying to explain what's behind the sell pressure.
Right.
While we're down 5% or so on the day, that's a pretty normal day. We wouldn't really be talking about it if we were going up like this. It feels good on the upside. We want to explain every drop in the market on the downside. But some people think that, okay, there is this overhang. There's a lot of supply coming to market. Let's get out in front of it. Let's sell. I don't necessarily believe that. But there is maybe a little bit of sell pressure here that you would run into. I mean, we've been selling off for a couple of weeks now after not being able to break above the prior 2021 cycle high. I think this is kind of largely just technical in nature.
I agree. I mean, Bitcoin sell off less than 1%, and we're pretty much at break even with the new supply. It's not going to make a material impact on Bitcoin.
Okay, so we will be able to track this on chain as this Bitcoin moves to the exchange before it's sold.
Yeah. There's wallets online. You could actually see. That's what we're looking at right now, a screenshot of one of the wallets. They're kind of bringing together all of their crypto into one wallet, which seems like a pretty high risk to have
So
that much.
is this right that there's 10 billion that could be potentially sold?
Yeah. This is a screenshot of their wallet. And they're consolidating their wallets into one. They're getting ready to distribute it, which I think is going to probably happen in July, from what I've seen.
Okay.
So let me ask you a question, Ryan.
I mean, that's a lot, though. If it's just all dumped, 10 billion.
But I mean, is it going to be all? This is assuming that it's all going to be dumped.
Right. And I don't believe that would be the case. But that is a good size amount of supply.
Yeah.
You know, when you look at, okay, what have we been very excited about? The ETF inflows of maybe 900 million a big day, 800 million, some big days there. We've seen outflows recently, but it's nowhere near 10 billion all at once.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen it obviously grow. It's been one of the best, I think maybe the best start to an ETF in history. But I mean, 10 billion is 9.5, whatever it is here. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a lot. But you know, if we jump to the next slide, we can actually just see how much it is.
Okay. I like this. You're one step ahead of everybody, Mad Mike.
That's how I live, man.
In the fast lane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So left-hand side, all Bitcoins in existence, 19.7 million out of 21 million that'll ever be mined already on the market.
Yeah.
Half of those are lost. I probably should have taken that into consideration, or 30% of them are gone forever. But the new supply is 0.72 from Mt. Gox coming in the market next month, assuming, you know, they're all sold at once. Well, not assuming anything. That is how much Bitcoin is coming into the market. And if we look on the right, we can see the trading volume in Bitcoin over the last 24 hours was $41 billion. So, I mean.
So you don't think then, and probably fair to say, putting words in your mouth, but you don't think that this is going to have much of an impact?
No. And these numbers I'm basing off of the 140,000 distribution, which is not, it could be as low as 65,000 coins. But this is the worst case scenario for new supply, which it sounds like it's probably not going to be 140. It very well could be, but this is the worst case scenario. And the worst case scenario doesn't look that bad to me.
Yeah. Look, we've seen elements of this before. We've known for a very long time that this was coming. I think you could also look at the U.S. government sitting on billions of dollars of crypto from various hacks that it's recovered. Some different actions that it's taken. It has some supply that it's sitting on. People assume that will be sold if those wallets haven't moved. I haven't looked at that closely, but there is this scenario that can play out in a variety of different ways where you do have an increase in supply. You have this sell pressure. You had post FTX a lot of fear around Solana tokens being dumped and the impact that it would have on the market, just given how these creditors are going to be repaid. But it hasn't, over time, it hasn't really had a meaningful impact. I mean, it might prevent it from just going straight up at times, which is what everybody seemingly wants. But I don't think that this is going to have much of a negative impact. I don't think it's what's really driving prices lower here today.
And just to put this into perspective, the U.S. Treasury is sitting on over 200,000 Bitcoins right now.
Okay, versus the 140,000 that Mt. Gox.
Ryan, why haven't they sold them?
They're the best. They're good traders. They're waiting for higher prices.
What are they waiting for? I'm just curious.
Heard the price targets, right? Post having 180,000.
Do you think they have a trader in the Treasury Department?
What's that?
Do you think they have a trader?
Yeah.
No, don't sell. Not today. Wait till tomorrow.
I have no idea. I mean, I think you want to be on the lookout